Alright, hello everybody. Here's another installment of the Wombotster Monster. Um, it's been a long day experimenting with this thing. I'm going to start, we have some good news and some bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news. Well, say there was probably was it one? Two bad things. Well, I'll start with this. So this was a failed print I had. Yeah, the lighting's not great. Hold on. But as you can see, got a lot of issues there. The legs and some of the detail in the legs printed okay, but so what basically happened was this was supposed to be an Egyptian statue like this one. So here's some of the good news, preview on the good news. Printed this Egyptian statue. Came out very nice. The detail is very good, as you can see. Good eye detail. Nose, ears, a lot of really good detail in this one. And that inspired me to try a raw, which is what led to the fail. So if you'll notice, this model has enclosed arms here. Very little overhang. Some support lapses up of this one. But the supports were very minimal, and they just went to kind of a lot of them were based off the toes. And only one support piece kind of popped off mid-print. The rest stayed. And as you can see, this printed great. So this had arms and hands specifically stretched out. And so there were long supports on both sides, and like about halfway calf where this little funky stringing starts, we had some failure. And so what was happening is the printer would print in air and then drag across the lip, which would create these strings hanging off here. And the supports failed, and it happened here on the crotch pretty excessively. And so I just decided to let it go, and I figured maybe it would survive, and I'd get a good shoulder and head minus the arms, and I could clean it up. But halfway through, it just fucking fell over, and that was that. So lesson learned. That was a little bit of a waste, but not too bad. I had another little bit of waste from. I'm trying to think. There was something else I printed that didn't come out perfectly. It's late and I'm getting tired, but I wanted to get on to some of the good news. Hey, so this, some of you might recognize, is a dice tower. It was supposed to be a torture test, but then when I sliced it, I accidentally kept auto support on. So it printed with supports, but it still did pass a couple interesting tests. Like I was just happened to be sitting down this large bridge here, which this whole wedge was complete, and I hadn't seen it do that before, and it did it great with no droop or anything. I was really impressed by that. It also did a good job. You can see the outlines of the bricks, the stones themselves. There's like no stringing at all. The fence came out, as you can see, the fence out very nice with no strings. I didn't clean this up at all. All I did was pop the supports off, and it printed that fence just like that with no strings. The only thing, the gate doesn't fold. I am going to try and hit it with a razor blade a bit, which might make it give. I can kind of feel it. I think it wants to. Just needs a little bit of love. But yeah, I'd like to reprint this with no supports, but I'm going to wait until my net's back to plastic because this surprised me. I sized this up. It was originally 4 inches. I sized it up to just over 6, so 150% of the original model I downloaded. I don't know why. I just felt like it, and I didn't think it would be that huge or whatever. So it was an 18.5-hour print. Which at first I was a little bit like, wow, a little surprised and dismayed at. But then in the second thought, I was really happy to see that the Wombat just handled it like nicely. Like I was just shocked. I got up in the morning, I came downstairs, it was still printing. It was probably mostly up the tower. I thought this would finish in 6 to 8 hours, especially after 5.5, this Egyptian here, and the Gladius, you know, it took 4.5. So I did not expect this to take as long as it did. And you know what it did? And it did it well, and I was very happy. So, you know, I might do that again, just minus the supports, but I'm going to wait till I get my next batch of plastic, because I am starting to move through this hatchback box, which, again, I've been really happy with. I printed 2 of these Gladiuses. You know, this is my design. I have yet to clean it up and make it cooler. This was just a kind of a proof of concept to see how well it will come out and work, and it came out great. Like I said, I printed 2 of these. The shape plate here. This bender and this rocket all in a hatch box. So, you can see right there. And here's some of the support mess. Seems like, well, it is quite a bit. So just to give you an idea how much plastic, how much stuff you can really print. Pretty much everything in this box too is the hatch box, which had a couple failed Giza things that just weren't adhering right. I've noticed after a couple long prints, that's been the trickiest part, I suppose, is mastering the perfect adhesion. Like sometimes it just wants to print like a 0.5 millimeter too high, and it cools too fast, and it doesn't get, like here, I can just show you a nice example. You see the back of this plate, how it's really shiny? Because it had really nice adhesion. Like it stuck really well, and it pressed the first layer so like into the bed. I'll see if I don't know if I have a good example of. Okay, you can kind of see in the edge of this bender that did not adhere as well as this back part did. It started to lift probably a little bit earlier on than the rest of it, and it's not quite as shiny. It's a little bit scuffed. And that's because that didn't press in quite as well as some of the other layers did. Now the bed isn't always perfect. You can see on here, got some pretty nice pressing action there. See how it's almost stretched into a band, like a pressed out band in the center, especially in the center there. And the Gladius shows it nicely too. These are all my really nice successful prints, and notice they all have this in common, a nice solid pressed layer. I say that because I'm going to get to my point in a minute. Same here. Look at that glassy shine, because there's a nice solid press layer. Give a shout out to whoever created this model, because they put something in it. There you go, Simon. You can read it maybe better than me. Anyway, so now on this current print, this is going to be Anubis. Now, a couple of these in here that you saw, these failures were just Giza lays. And you see this separated like that, like wave paper? That's the base layer. Notice how it's not pressed together. If your print, this is just the rookies, because anyone with experience probably already knows this, so don't even bother listening. But if you're new to this and you're watching this video, if you see this start to happen in your base layer, don't really think it's going to get better. Just pull it, start over. And again, I haven't had that much issue. Like I pretty much threw the Castle file and the Pharaoh file on, and first try it hit the right layering. It printed nice. Same with my shape plate. My shape plate, I didn't have to reprint this multiple times. I threw this in there once, and it printed nicely. Gladius as well. Threw the Gladius in, and it printed very nicely. So I've had a couple issues with a couple prints, and I can't really figure out if it's my printer starting to get a little worn, or if, I mean, it is still new, but I have used it a lot. And I mean, in the last 3 days alone, I've had 2 days where it's been on almost 24 hours straight, doing prints. Like the Gladius and the Pharaoh total was like a 9 to 10 hour day. Plus I did the Ra, which printed for 2 to 3 hours before it ultimately failed. I printed a rocket in between, which is a 2 hour print. And then this one's going to probably be about 6 hours when time it's done. I am getting pretty low on the hatch box. It's hard to see, but when I lift it, I can feel it's definitely, I'm pretty sure it's under a pound now. Which is not to worry, because I have black coming tomorrow, And I have wood coming like next Monday or Tuesday. It's supposed to arrive by Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, on to the point. So this Anubis file, there's trouble. And it seems to be with my initial, my initial layering. I ran the print probably 3 or 4 times, and it just didn't press in nice. I leveled the bed, and I leveled the bed, I reset the machine, I leveled the bed. Yeah, I never usually have to try more than twice to get a print really rolling. In fact, I've found that if I can't get it rolling by the third or fourth try, I just move on to the next file. So maybe I should be doing that with this one. But first, I worked on this time. I have a headache right now because I spent time in Autodesk and Mesh Mixer trying to fix this file. So I want this to work. And so this is like, as you can see, the rippling. It's too close to the bed right now. So on the first layer, like over here, as you can tell, that was the first layer. It did not really print much plastic because it was so close to the bed that the extruder could not force the plastic through and put a nice layer down. So it was skipping, as if the lead screw was off, which it wasn't. So, but the other 5 or 6 times I tried this print, it's printing a 0.5 millimeter too high, and it's causing this. And again, this is not what we want for layer number 1. So, I'm going to give this a go. This might not work. I'm just kind of hoping that the machine sort of writes itself. I've seen a couple of my other prints. Like, in fact, I think my shape plate even, and one other print, like a bender one, started this way where it was just a little bit on the close side, and then I just let it keep going, and it turned out to be a pretty decent print. So, because it's been a long day, so that's part of the bad news. I skipped over part of the bad news because it's been too long of a day. So I spent like 12 hours today trying to slice files, like good files to print. And part of the issue is I'm doing it on a really crappy laptop, so I have myself to blame. But it's just really frustrating waiting like an hour and a half for a file to slice. And then there was this one file, I was trying to get an Eiffel Tower, and it kept failing, and my stubborn ass kept trying, and it kept wasting 3 to 5 hours on this fucking Eiffel Tower file. So I just had to print something today because it's literally been sitting here on all day. So the tower one finished around lunchtime earlier today, and I've had it basically waiting to set another print on, and then even at 7:30, 8 o'clock, I fired it up, heated it up, thinking I was going to slice something and put it on, and an hour later I still didn't have anything, so I finally just forced this as fast as I could through Mesh Mixer. I had to fix it in Mesh Mixer, and then slice it up, and it just barely got under the wire before I shot myself. So now that it's giving me problems on the bed, I'm just gonna give this a go and cross my fingers, and I hope you'll all cross them for me as well, because I'm just a little too tired to fidgeting with this. I'm not 100% sure. I can probably fix this electronically, but again, I still don't have my computer set up to this. I'm just going off the LCD and whatnot, so I'm just gonna race, and if it doesn't lay, it has like a 0.5 millimeter or 1 millimeter base, so if it doesn't seem to be laying that well by then and print the feet well, I'll be able to tell, and I'll be able to cancel that. That'll at least happen before I pass out tonight, I'm sure. So anyway, now you can tell though, it is rippling because of the closeness and the defects, but it's not skipping. It is extruding plastic, so that is at least being achieved. So anyway, we're going to go to time-lapse mode. Thanks for watching. Sorry for rambling. I'm tired, and I ramble when I'm tired. Everybody have a good night. Wish the printer luck. Peace out.